If your calves are weak, small and tight, they could completely fuck up your knees and your hamstrings. And for many people, that's exactly what they do. Not to mention the terrible Achilles injury that plagues many Gaelic footballers' careers. This can all be prevented with 10 to 20 minutes of calf work a week for 5-6 months of the year. The calves and the muscles around your ankles are tiny muscles with a huge impact. They literally impact your technique on every single lower body exercise. You will not be able to work your hamstrings properly if your calves are tight and weak. You won't be able to squat properly or do split squats or lunges with proper technique or full depth if your calves are tight and weak. And despite that, most Gaelic footballers go through their whole career without ever doing a single calf raise or tibialis raise. To play Gaelic football at any level, you need to be able to fold and bounce. And as you'll see in the photos I'm about to show you, folding is not exclusive to Gaelic football. It happens in many sports where you fall down onto your knees or you get caught in compromised positions where your knees are pushing really far forward past your toes. In fact, this position happens very naturally every single day when we walk up a stairs. Our knees go over our toes and we're really testing our ankle flexibility every single time we do it. And the better that flexibility is, the less chance of injury when you get caught in those folding positions lower to the ground. Every single Gaelic footballer needs to bounce or change direction very, very quickly. When I think of bouncing or on your toes, I think of the movement of an inside forward. Someone like Andy Moran or Ian Burke from Currafin or Jamie Clark from Armagh, Conor Laverty from Kilcoo, another obvious example. Inside forwards with excellent movement, bouncing back and forth, constantly on their toes, able to change direction very, very quickly. You simply can't do these movements to create that extra bit of space to get the ball or to get a shot off. If you have weak calves and ankles, they won't hold up to these high pressure situations. And obviously anyone marking this style of player has to have the same ability to change direction very, very quickly. So all these movements out in the pitch, jumping and changing direction very quickly, as well as your squats, RDLs or hinges, split squats and lunges, all depend on calf flexibility and strength to be performed properly. And that's what we're going to cover in this short, quick video today that could have an enormous impact on your Gaelic football career. So it's unbelievably common for calves and ankle sprains to happen to a Gaelic footballer throughout the season, or to get your ankles taped up. But you can make this joint very, very strong with a few basic stretches and strengthening exercises. There's 4 key exercises that I like to use with my clients that are very, very simple, but are often very, very uncomfortable. The first thing you need to know is the difference between dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So dorsiflexion means you're bringing your toe up towards your shin, which is like a tibialis raise, and plantar flexion is when you're pushing your toe away from your shin. So like any type of calf raise, whether your knee is straight or your knee is bent. So we have these 2 excellent stretches. The first one of them, you want to make sure the balls of your feet are all touching the ground. It's very simply just sit back on your heels and you should be able to hold that position for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Second stretch, very simply, you just have your feet flat along the ground and you should also be able to hold that for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. And both of those stretches, when done consistently, can massively improve your squat technique, your split squat depth, your RDL technique in just 1 month. They will improve very, very quickly, but they can be extremely stiff and painful in the beginning. The other 2 stretches that I like to use the most for calves and ankles is just a standing calf stretch. So just your leg dead straight and make sure that you're lifting your toe, actively lifting your toe as close to your knee as possible. And it's very, very easy to get a full stretch, deep stretch in your calf in that position, as opposed to the ones at the end of training when you're putting one leg on top of the other and your hands are down on the ground, where a lot of fellas don't really feel that stretch whatsoever. And then the final stretch, the one that most guys will struggle with the most, is when you're kneeling down, your knee is fully bent and you want to lean your elbow and put as much weight as you can on top of your knee to push your knee forward past your toe as far as possible while your heel stays on the ground. Those 4 stretches are very, very simple, but if you just picked the next month, the next 4 weeks to do them every single night, you take 5 to 10 minutes to do the 4 of them, that will massively open up the flexibility of your calves and ankles, and you'll feel that out on the pitch doing all your runs and jumps, and in the gym doing all your techniques. So they're the stretches, and like I've been teaching you lately, lengthen and strengthen. So you can think lengthen with those 4 stretches. But making the calf and ankle more flexible is great, but you want to make it stronger too. So there's 3 calf raises that I very commonly use that are very, very simple. Now there's something crucial that you should know about calf raises, is that the range of motion is extremely short. It's a single joint exercise as opposed to a compound movement, maybe like squats where you're using your hips, knees and ankles. This one's just the ankles, the calf raise, so it's a single joint exercise. So the range of motion is tiny. So that means you're going to be able to add pauses at the top and at the bottom to increase the time under tension and make the muscles work harder. The second thing to note is that the Achilles tendon is the biggest, thickest tendon in the whole body. So if you do calf raise exercises fast and bouncy, bending the knees, you're literally not working your calf muscles whatsoever. And that's what most people do. They'll skip calves completely, and when they do calves, they'll just be bouncing up and down and the calf muscles won't be working nearly as hard as they should be. So you want to take a pause at the top, a pause at the bottom, and my 3 favorite calf raises that I use with my players for the great results is the standing calf raise with 2 feet. You want to think building up to 20 reps where you do 1 second pause at the top and at the bottom. Then once you can do it on 2 feet, you want to build it up to do it on 1 foot. Again, 20 reps, build it up to a 1 second pause at the top and a 1 second pause at the bottom for the full 20 reps. And in that bent knee position, remember you're going to be working your gastrocnemius or your soleus more depending on whether your knee is straight or your knee is bent. You want to make sure that you can do 20 calf raises in that deep squat position. This is a super one for squat mobility and spending time in that deep squat position. And I would pause at the top and at the floor there on those as well as the standing calf raises. The next muscle that's often ignored, that's been made more popular definitely in recent years by knees over toes guys, but Charles Poliquin used to talk about this back in the day a lot as well, is the tibialis raise. Now you don't need any special equipment. You'll see a lot of fancy methods of doing tibialis raises, but with my clients I've got great results over the years just doing one type of tibialis raise, 5 or 10 minutes a week between calves and tibialis work, and just your foot should be flat on the ground, barefoot preferably, and you bring your big toe up as high as possible to try and touch your shin. It's obviously impossible to touch your shin, but as high as possible, trying to touch your shin, and then back down to the ground till the foot is fully flat on the ground, and then up and touch your shin again. It's really important to note there also on the calf raises that when you're doing the calf raise and you're coming up at the top, that you come up on your big toe and you don't make the range of motion shorter by going out onto the baby toe and reducing the muscle activation and how hard that your calf is working. This will feel very, very crampy if you've never done it before. And on the calf raise, you want to feel that when you come up to the top, you really squeeze and put the pressure on the big toe. So just between those few stretches and the calves and the tibialis raise, you're going to get a massive improvement in the health and strength and flexibility of your calves and ankles. If you do that for a month or two, that will make an enormous difference. It makes an enormous difference with my clients all the time. Now, usually I get clients to start off with hanging from the pull-up bar and hip flexors, and if they're still very, very tight, they still have bad mobility, I'll move into some other stretches and start really pinpointing, okay, maybe it's the calves and ankles that are forcing this squat to have such a short range of motion or a big forward lean while they're trying to get into those deeper positions. Some other simple exercises and very honorable mentions when it comes to calf, ankle and Achilles health is skipping, so jump rope. I think skipping is completely underrated, and you'll see skipping is mostly found in boxing. And why boxers have to change direction very, very quickly to avoid being punched. And you'll find that most professional boxers are incredible skippers, just absolutely incredible at jumping a rope. So I would be telling every single underage player to learn how to skip. You should be able to do 3 or 4 minutes without stopping. I taught myself completely. I only picked it up at age 20, 21. And you should be able to switch from left foot to right foot, left foot to right foot, high knees and double overs. And that's going to be excellent for your calf health and flexibility as well going forward. Along with skipping is plyometrics. Now, a lot of guys, they'll skip straight away from calf and ankle flexibility work. They won't do any flexibility or strength work for the calves and ankles. They'll go straight to plyometrics. I'm very, very against this. Of course, naturally you're going to be doing some jumping movements and plyometric style movements just by playing the sport, but I would recommend that you get your calves and ankles very strong and very flexible, and then start doing plyometrics afterwards. Plyometrics seem to be sold as this golden ticket for speed and explosiveness and power, and they can be very, very useful, but your lower body needs to be very strong and flexible to handle those without breaking down. And finally, something that's massively underrated and underutilized for Gaelic footballers is pushing sleds and pulling sleds. These are incredible athletic movements, modified strongman training, as Charles Poliquin used to call it, and he wrote books on the subject. This is incredible for calf and ankle flexibility, and if you can think of that position where you're down really low on the prowler pushing a heavy sled, it's exactly the takeoff position in a sprint where you're trying to drive through tackles, or whether you're trying to take off as fast as possible to get out in front of your man to win the ball. You're really down low, and it's super for working on acceleration, but it's also going to work your calves and ankles and that dorsiflexion very, very hard. Also, Charles Poliquin was a huge fan, even though I've never used this method myself, of incline walking on a treadmill for really increasing calf and ankle flexibility. But I've never used it myself around clients, so I'm not going to recommend a specific dose, but maybe 10 minutes before your sessions could be massively helpful in getting that extra range of motion. So you can see from this video, the calf and ankle and Achilles impacts so much of what we're trying to achieve with our leg training and sprints and jumps and agility and athleticism for Gaelic football, but it's usually completely ignored. Without much investment on time, you can have a huge impact on all the rest of your muscles in the lower body when it comes to strength and building muscle, and that's going to transfer to more athleticism, speed, pace and agility out on the field. So make sure you don't neglect it. Small investment of time, massive reward in terms of athleticism and performance on the pitch, and most importantly, it's going to make you avoid those calf, ankle, Achilles injuries that are just so common in Gaelic footballers. Eliminating them completely, like the hamstrings, is unrealistic, but this will massively reduce the chances of those injuries happening. Let's go.